My experience with an autoimmune disease. Now, this video was meant to be a Q&A, but so many of the questions were all surrounding my experience with autoimmune disease, what it is, how I got it, how I discovered I had it, the symptoms, what I did to help. Did I go the natural route, the medicinal or big pharma route, let's say? And yeah, there were just loads of questions on it. I actually get loads of questions and comments from people that have the exact same autoimmune disease, and they have loads of questions about it. So I thought, why not dedicate an entire video to it? And really, this all dates back to about second year of uni, to be honest. I definitely wasn't in peak health. In fact, I was definitely far from it. I was very much into bodybuilding. I was doing incredibly hard bulking phases, like 6,000 plus calories per day. Really drastic cutting phases as well, where I was cutting calories very heavily. My diet was horrific, uni budget for starters, particularly when you're trying to get 6,000 calories in on a university budget. Doesn't tend to be the prettiest sight in the world. I wasn't doing any cardio. I was training bodybuilding like 6 days a week, probably one rest day, training incredibly heavy. Like, this is the strongest I've ever been. I think I got like a half-ton leg press, which was messed up at the time and made me feel like I was actually gonna die. So I don't know how good that was for my health in the long run either. I was sleeping really badly, chuck in a healthy dose of university-induced stress with coursework and deadlines, etc. Throw in a load of alcohol, drinking, drugs, etc. that you typically find at uni. I wasn't on steroids. People do ask me some questions about that. I wasn't on steroids. I've never done steroids, but I'm flattered that people thought I was. So at uni, I was studying sports and exercise science, and a key part of that course was lab work. So in a lab setting, we'd do loads of kind of practical research, like VO2 max testing, Wingate tests, etc. And it was in one of these tests that I effectively found out that I had an autoimmune disease. I forget what the exact test we were doing was. It was on the bike. I think it might have been sub-max testing or Wingate, I can't remember. Either way, basically what it involved was sitting down on the cycling erg with a chest-mounted heart rate monitor on. And we were just warming up, okay? Like literally just barely moving, just to get our heart rate up for 5 minutes. That was the idea. And all of our heart rates were projected onto like a big smartboard in front of the entire room. So there were probably like 20 people on bikes, everyone's heart rate on screen. The vast majority of people's heart rates were like, just creeping up from like 70, 80, 90 BPM as they kind of got into this warm up, 100 BPM maybe, 110. And then there's one, which is like, literally, we're like 2 minutes in and I was pushing maximal heart rate. I was like 180 or something. The lecturer and the assistant that were overseeing this practical basically were like, whose heart is this? Like who is this kind of thing? Because it was all anonymous up on the smartboard. And I was like, and they basically said, we think your monitor's broken. Like, let's change it. Let's change your heart rate monitor. So we swapped it out for another one and it didn't change. And bear in mind as well, like I felt normal, at least what I thought normal was. I was boiling hot, I was dripping with sweat, and my heart rate was like pushing max, even though I was barely at jogging pace. And yeah, I felt fine, like literally felt fine. I was going all the way up from like 180, 190, pushing 200 BPM. And they're like, okay, right, buddy, go to a doctor. And I was like, okay. Got a checkup booked in and had a load of tests done, blood tests, etc. And they very quickly diagnosed that I had an overactive thyroid. The thyroid is a gland in your neck. It helps to dictate and modulate things like metabolism. It's a really important gland responsible for a bunch of stuff. And basically, when it's overactive, you're just producing too much thyroid hormone. And basically, what this diagnosis did for me was realize that so many symptoms that I'd had, I assumed that these were just normal things. So I had a very, very high heart rate. Like my resting heart rate was 90, 100, 110 BPM lots of the time, okay? It was just a very rapid heart rate. I regularly couldn't sleep. I couldn't fall asleep for ages. It would be commonplace to kind of lie awake for absolutely ages with heart palpitations, racing heart rate, boiling hot. Like I was boiling hot all the time. Always like sweating, it was grim, and always like quite flushed as well. And part of having an overactive thyroid means you burn a ton of calories. Like you are a calorie burning machine if you have an overactive thyroid, which would explain why I had to eat so many calories in order to gain muscle. As I said, I was eating obscene quantities of food during these bulking phases to gain weight. It was just disgusting. Genuinely, at one point, like a dinner would be 3 chicken breasts, a whole jar of Patak's butter chicken, which was like God knows how many calories, and like half a kilo of rice uncooked. like uncooked weight. I'm not joking, genuinely. And then a few months after that, they found that the overactive thyroid was caused by an autoimmune disease called Graves' disease. Graves' disease being an autoimmune disease that attacks your thyroid, causes your thyroid to produce way too much thyroid hormone, which has all of these other side effects. And yeah, it was pretty rough. The weirdest thing was that so many of these symptoms that I'd had for such a long period of time anyway, and I thought they were normal. Like one of the key ones being this constant feeling of anxiousness, restlessness, being on edge, quite irritable, like all the time. And I just thought that was just how I was, frankly. Through getting that diagnosis, I was like, oh my God, this explains so much. This explains why I can't sleep. This explains my obscene calorie intake. This explains why I constantly feel anxious, why I constantly feel on edge, why I feel like my heart is gonna explode out of my chest pretty much all the time. So yeah, like it explained a lot, which was great. Now, of course, me being me and me being very, very into health and nutrition and all of these things, I became absolutely hell-bent on finding a natural solution to this problem. I was significantly less knowledgeable in health and nutrition at the time. And of course, I very quickly bought into all these clips I was seeing online of people that were like curing autoimmune diseases through diet and curing autoimmune diseases through cutting out vegetables, or in this case, it's cruciferous vegetables with thyroid, you know, things like broccoli and kale and all of that stuff. And there's all these huge claims people make. It's always anecdote, bear in mind. It's just anecdote to anecdote. I cured my autoimmune disease by eating grass-fed butter. Obviously not, but you get the idea. And I bought into it, right? I was absolutely desperate for a natural solution. And I think part of the reason why I wanted a natural solution so badly is that the other options for overactive thyroid aren't so appealing, of course. You have medication, you then have radioactive iodine therapy, which has got awful side effects like reducing your lifespan, fertility, cancer risk goes up loads, like the list goes on. Then you have surgery, so getting your whole thyroid removed, leaves you with a little scar, probably a hoarse voice, you know, it's not too bad, but it does mean you no longer have a thyroid and you have to supplement with thyroid hormone for the rest of your life. So again, I wasn't totally convinced by that one either. So yeah, I started removing cruciferous vegetables. I started trying to remove and reduce inflammatory foods like gluten and sugars and all of that stuff. And I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't notice anything. Yeah, I didn't notice anything. There was other talk about salt and iodine in salt and dairy products and how the thyroid processes iodine, so there's talk around that. I tried all of that, again, no success either. So after a while, I said enough's enough. I need to just bite the bullet, suck it up and accept that there isn't always a natural solution to these problems. However much you hate big pharma or whatever, the stuff works, right? Like it's there for a reason. Medication works. Like there are so many people that say, oh, I've cured this condition by not eating this or eating more of this or doing this diet. It's like, great, you know, I'm happy for you if you actually did that and you can definitely attribute that success to that change, then wonderful, like brilliant, I'm jealous, frankly. But that isn't always the case. And in my case, the thing that absolutely saved me was medication. I started taking carbimazole. I had to take a lot of carbimazole to bring my thyroid hormone down. I was on a very, very high dose. It started causing issues with my kidneys. And yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare, but it brought my thyroid down. And then over time, I could bring my dose of carbimazole down. I'm now on the lowest dose, and it's been a long time now, genuinely maybe 5 years. And as soon as the medication started taking effect, I just started feeling so relaxed. It was just great. My resting heart rate came down from like 110, 90, down to 80. I've now brought it down even further with like way more cardio training as well. I brought it down to like around 60, 65-ish, which is absolutely amazing, all things considered. And yeah, I can sleep, I can fall asleep. The heart rate thing is gone, the palpitations are gone, the anxiety is gone, the constant feeling of being on edge is gone. I can now eat a normal amount of calories and maintain a normal body weight, which is amazing. And yeah, it's just great. I think the message here for me is that there's not always a natural solution to these types of problems. I know that the natural solutions are always the most appealing. Of course they are, because they're natural. This is just basic naturalistic fallacy, okay? Of course, if there was a safe and 100% guaranteed way of sorting out my thyroid in completely naturally, obviously I would take it. But for me, the answer lied in the medication. I was then given the option to do radioiodine therapy just to basically nip it in the bud. I said no, that's my personal choice for my own reasons. In the same way, I've also opted out of surgery. My rationale being that, look, if down the line we do get a better solution to Graves' disease, whether that be through diet or through lifestyle factors or through just a new medication that's safer or whatever, then great, that gives me the option to take that. In my mind, if I remove my thyroid entirely, I remove any options down the line. And, weighing up the risks, it seems that either way, there'll be complications when you're older, and it just is what it is, okay? But look, that is my decision. I do not want that to influence your decision. I would advise, if you do have Graves' disease or a thyroid condition or anything like that, do a load of your own research, speak to credible people like doctors, please, please, please. Speak to doctors that actually provide you a service based on standards and good quality research. It sounds like the bare minimum, but I see so many people doing incredibly risky and dangerous things to like cure autoimmune disease and stuff, okay? Please go where the evidence is. This is your health, it's important. And there can be incredibly severe side effects if you do this wrong, okay? But as I say, if you find a natural solution, then great, brilliant, wonderful. As I say, I'm very jealous. So of course, this whole thyroid scare for me was a very big kick up the arse to focus in on health rather than just aesthetics, because before then, I was just obsessed with bodybuilding and getting big and being strong and all of that stuff at the absolute detriment of my health. So in terms of health, things that I aim to do going forwards, and I have been doing for years and years now, just to keep myself as healthy as I can. Regular cardio, ideally daily. Admittedly, I don't have time for that all the time, but I aim for as much cardio as I can. Cardio being an amazing way of maintaining good heart health, which is obviously critical for someone in my position. Over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, my diet is effectively entirely cleaned up. Although I do not eliminate foods, because I don't believe in eliminating foods for my specific situation and for the vast majority of people, I aim for a healthy diet pattern. By that I mean I aim for around 80% of my diet on either a daily or weekly basis to consist of whole foods. The other 20% are bad foods, ultra-processed foods, and that works perfectly well for me. And in doing this, I can maintain very good health, as well as not avoiding foods. I think true health lies in balance and moderation rather than fear of certain foods. I focus on getting adequate sleep. I keep alcohol quite limited. I do find now that when I do drink, it does cause certain flare-ups with symptoms of the autoimmunity, like my heart rate spikes, body temperature spikes, can't sleep, all of that kind of stuff. So alcohol is definitely something that I'm wary of, and I try to limit as much as I can. So yeah, that's my story really with Graves' disease, with autoimmunity. It's all under wraps now, it's under control. I'm very grateful to have it under control. And look, I'm constantly doing more research on it. If there is new strategies that come into place or new dietary or lifestyle factors that we can introduce to help potentially reduce symptoms, that's awesome. If one day I could potentially entirely remove medication, that would be amazing. And I'd be over the moon to be able to do that. That'd be awesome. But until then, we'll wait and see. I'm happy, I feel great. In the same way, I'm happy for you if you've managed to find like a natural solution to your thyroid or autoimmune condition, then that's wonderful. Like, I'm so glad for you if you've managed to do that. For me, the medication works, I'm happy, and that's fine. Like, that is a good thing. I think the attitude surrounding going the like medicinal route or the big pharma route over the natural route is so absurd and so case dependent. It pains me to see how many people are like adamant that because they did this one thing that helped their thyroid or their autoimmunity, that it will work for somebody else. It does not work like that, okay? You cannot tell people to do what you did because it worked for you. That's anecdote, it's not okay, it's bad practice. I see this way too much online. This is my experience, this is what I've done. Do not let what I've done and my experience dictate the decisions that you make if you have similar issues to this. Go to credible sources of information. Do not listen to some random TikToker or Instagram influencer to convince you to take extreme actions on your health. Of course, in an ideal world, you'd do it all naturally. And that's something that I do with every other aspect of my life, is keep myself as healthy as I possibly can, eat as well as I can, exercise as effectively as I can, sleep as well as I can, maintain a healthy lifestyle. And that's exactly what I coach all of my clients to do, the exact same. And the results are amazing. So it works. I would absolutely love to hear about your experiences with autoimmune diseases, whether it's Graves' disease or something else, or other thyroid related issues as well. Please do comment below, like share your story, or drop me a DM through Instagram if you don't want to make it public. And that's it for me for today. So yeah, have a great week. Please do like, comment, subscribe, click the bell icon for notifications as well. And yeah, I will see you next week.